Council of Jewish Organizations Staten Island is the central coordinating agency for this borough. We have a constituency of 40,000 people. We serve as the main coordinating agency among the 40,000 Jews. Our job is to bring everybody together under the big umbrella tent to advocate for the Jewish community and for the broader Staten Island general welfare as a whole.
Okay, thank you, sir.
The relationship that COJO has with our elected representatives, governmental officials, is all about bringing people together and having their voices being heard.
The working people in the city are being abused. 28% increase in the property tax levy over the last 3.5 years. And my press conference with Councilman Borelli was talking about, let's look at the comparison. We have a mayor who has a home valued at $1.9 million. He's paying $3,500 in property taxes. Yet we, or I anyway, own a home that's worth $550,000 and I'm paying $5,500. Who benefits the most out of all the city council districts, all 51 of them? Whose district do you think pays the least effective tax rate in the city? That's right, Bill de Blasio's. And that's why there's no incentive to actually change the system. So
The people at COJO and the organizations that make up COJO really are the engine of Staten Island. Staten Islanders, as we all know, come together when people are down and out. And COJO is a perfect example of our community coming together and helping Staten Islanders. So I'm just here to support COJO, thank them for having this every year.
We've worked together on a variety of issues. Recently, we worked together with Senator Lanza and the governor to work on the opioid crisis and work on legislation that's going to help and assist in making analogs of fentanyl also illegal, so that when they make fentanyl in the lab and they change it by one molecule or two, and they go to court and the prosecutor says, well, I want to prosecute for fentanyl, and then the defense attorney says, well, this isn't fentanyl, this is something else, and it's not illegal. Guess what? This legislation that is being fostered by Assemblyman Cusick and Senator Lanza, and supported by me, is going to make sure that that drug dealer is going to have to face the music, going to have to face justice.
Whether it's the opioid problem, we got to stop saying it's a drug problem. It's a people problem. These people aren't my families. A close relative I grew up with literally died in the streets because of a drug problem. These are our own relatives and friends. It's not some stranger out there who's got some problem we want to hear about. Put these things on our own shoulders for a change, rather than finding somebody to blame. And find elected leaders, whether they're in office now or vote for them. And if you vote for them, keep talking to them and saying, we need you to think about these situations in human terms, not in terms of who to blame. We can all argue about taxes all day and night and appropriations, but let's start thinking about the humanity involved.
But today, now the city controller and the very people who built our city are being pushed out. They can't afford it. They don't think the city is for the people of that era. And then we see that the kids, right, the sons and the daughters and the grandkids, well, the entrance fee to the city is now a $2 million condo. And that's not right. And we've got to change that. Part of what I believe is that how we approach that is to build a city for working people. So if you start at the bottom or you don't start the race on time, you have an opportunity to get to the finish line for your family, for your kids. And the way you do that is by planning, by thinking through big ideas. It starts with transportation. If we were going to talk about transportation on Staten Island, this would be the 2-hour discussion. And if we were going to talk about how we have a vision, we also have to think about land use and zoning and those issues. So that's what we've been focusing on as controller. I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to do as someone who's been independent and forceful in making sure that we hold agencies accountable and
Everyone involved with COJO, thank you for what you do for Staten Island. It is an unbelievable organization. So it's my privilege lot of the candidates. I'm going to shorten my remarks because it's true, I am running next year, so out of respect for this year's candidates and for all of you, I'm going to make this brief. We heard a lot of good things today. One of the things is bipartisanship. Listen, I'm not in office now. I was in office for 4 years. I never had any political background whatsoever, but I had quite a bit of experience in our government. From enlisting in the Marine Corps, serving in combat, and then having the fortune of being in the FBI as a special agent, working deep undercover for many years. I've seen just about everything in the federal government, or at least I thought I had. One of the things that makes Staten Island very special and very different is that it is truly bipartisan. There may be election cycles where it gets a little contentious, but overall, the one thing that I can say without any reservation is that whether it was Superstorm Sandy, where literally I stood next to Michael Cusick shoveling out pasta because they didn't have meals at some of the shelters. And Michael and I looked at each other and said, okay, how do we resolve this problem? Government's not always the answer. Government is often not the answer. We knew that if we tried to get the city, state, or federal government, it was 45 minutes to an hour until dinner. These people have been through literally things we don't even want to think about anymore 5 years later. They've lost everything. They've had neighbors that have lost their lives and their home. So we chipped in out of our own pockets. We went to a restaurant owner that we both knew and said, what's the quickest thing you can make? He said, we can make pasta. So we had big trays of pasta made up. That's Staten Island in a nutshell. And it's been that way for a long time. We need to preserve that. Unfortunately, the harsh reality is it's not like that everywhere else. And I'm running for my old seat in Congress where I can promise you all the greatest intentions of the world don't mean as much because it is extremely partisan. And when one side or the other, and I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all. I know we can do more when we work together. My flood insurance bill is called, and you're going to laugh, if you know Maxine Waters, and I know some of my Congresswoman Maxine Waters, I know some of my opponents will tell you, she's about as liberal as it gets, as far left on the Democrat side, but she worked with me for the Grim Waters bill. That's now the law of the land for flood insurance because flood insurance rates were going through the roof and people were losing their homes. So that was a very personal issue for me, having lived through Sandy and seeing people already lose their homes. Now they would possibly lose their homes again because of flood insurance rates. And we worked together and got it done. But unfortunately, most of the time, you can't even get in the room if your side is not in charge. So you have to understand that as much as we can work together here at the local level, many times you don't get that opportunity to work together at the federal level because of the partisanship. And it's going to take real leadership to break through that, like I worked with Maxine Waters. And it's also, in my opinion, my success. If you ask me why I was running in the first place, why I ran for Congress, it's because it was always very personal to me. I love this country enough to give my life for it. I know that some of those running on the Democrat side believe in that same value. They've also put their lives on the line for this country. But I think that every single issue has to be personal. Not just the huge, massive opioid epidemic. Not just the infrastructure that we don't have for our transportation. But when one of you needs help in your family, on your block, whatever it may be, your congressman should be accessible and he should be effective. He or she should be accessible and effective and be able to actually resolve your problem. And many times, that's going to come down to how personal that congressman is willing to make it. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that when I first got elected, Staten Island and Brooklyn really embraced me, gave me the opportunity that I needed, and I made sure it was personal. So that next year, when I am running, I'll come back, we'll speak again. In the meantime, I want to thank all of the candidates here for stepping up and doing their civic duty. I want to thank all of you for coming out, and I want to thank COJO. God bless all of you. Stay well.
9/11 combat veteran to run for office in New York City history. But before I get into that, I want to thank you, Scott. I want to thank you so much for your leadership. You know, my faith is incredibly important to me. I'm a fourth-generation New Yorker. When you grow up in New York, you think everybody's a Jew.
Or Yankee fan.
Or a Yankee fan, right? I go to basic training, and Michael, you probably remember this. In basic training, on Sundays, you get to do one of two things. You either go to religious services or you clean the bathroom. So everyone becomes very religious in the military. And I go to temple, and the pews are stacked. 400, 500 people there. Oh my God, there's so many Jews in the military. This is amazing. And it's only at the end of the service when I get outside and I see a long table of bagels and lox and cream cheese and donuts that I realize that I've finally seen a world where you understand that Jews represent a very small percentage of this world. And it's important that we don't lose our faith. It's important nobody loses their faith. But I pledge to you, whether I have the privilege to be a congressman from Staten Island or not, I'll always be a defender of Israel, a defender of the Jewish faith, and a defender of someone's freedom to observe whatever it is that they believe is important to them. Now, with that being said, the first thing that we have to do is diagnose the problem. Now, unlike this room down in D.C., and this is the fault of both political parties, nobody's getting anything done. Hyperpartisanship today is the greatest threat to our national security. Nothing before that. Now, when I was deployed to Afghanistan as an infantry officer, my vehicle hit an IED. I was medevac to Kandahar Air Force Base, and a two-star general comes up to me, and he looks down at me and says, "Son, 5 years ago you'd be dead," and then he walks away. That's how generals comfort you. But you know what? He was right. Because of the double-plated armor underneath my vehicle, which pushed the explosion away, my life was safe. Now, 5 years before that, 10 years before that, that wasn't there. So Congress had finally gotten their act together after thousands of soldiers had died, and they'd done something. That's the story of America at its best. I'm a testament to that we can do better. So I reject this idea that healthcare in America today can't be a right, not a privilege. And we can't accomplish that in a cost-effective manner. I reject the idea that we can't have roads, bridges, broadband technology, 21st century technology that are the envy of the world. And I reject the idea that being a member of a union today should not be something that you are proud of. Something that leads wages, leads workers' rights in this country. I reject it all because we can do so much better than what we're doing right now. That's why I'm running. So, as Michael mentioned, this election is too far away. I cannot imagine it. But I'm going to keep on fighting, and I pledge to you, I'm going to first earn your trust, and then I'm going to earn your support.
So I was born in Borough Park, and I was raised in the borough of Parks, which I think is pretty awesome, right? My dad brought us to Staten Island 40 years ago, and with the power of a good-paying city job, a union man, he gave his family a better future. For the last 13 and a half years, I have been, every single day, getting up and going to work to help our city's most vulnerable youth find a better future. I am right now the Senior Director of Workforce Initiatives for an agency called New York Center for Interpersonal Development. It's a nonprofit agency. I'm going to do my job through this because my community needs me every single day. What it means to have this title is that I help bridge the gap between education and employment. I am also an English teacher and a proud member of the United Federation of Teachers. So these titles, they are etched on my heart and my soul. I get up every day and I go to work because I love my work. And it is as important to me as the title of being a United States Marine. Okay? Marine Corps taught me initiative and dependability. Thank you, sir. My drill instructors, they taught me endurance. My service taught me to be unselfish. So I get up and I go to work. And since returning from Okinawa, I have given my life to my work. And I've learned to be my best through the thick and thin of things. And doesn't it just get thick? It really just gets thick. 5.5 years ago, my wife Natalie, she fell suddenly sick. And each day as a family, we come together and we face the challenges of her illness. And we navigate the insurance claims. And we make the phone calls, and we manage the finances, and we manage the bills. And we do that as a family. And it stays thick, and we work through it. And doesn't it feel thin? All the people that I serve, I believe that they feel like life is just so thin. We could not be more proud of our daughter Mia for finding a profession that she loves. She became a court stenographer. She's 20 years old. She's rocking and rolling. She's having an amazing time at it already as a professional. And every single day, I worry about how it is getting harder and harder to make it in today's America. Ladies and gentlemen, I am just a regular guy. I am a regular guy who has gotten up every single day and gone to work to help people find solutions to their problems. And I believe that we deserve everyday people in Washington getting it done. That's why I'm running. I'm running because I believe in the promise of the American dream. I'm running for each and every one of you. You're going to see me around if you haven't already. Okay? It's going to be a long year. I look forward to working with all of you, my fellow candidates.
Now, we've heard a lot about bipartisanship here tonight, and that's such a sweet, sweet aroma, isn't it? But if I believed in bipartisanship, I wouldn't be up here. And I'll say it directly. Because I believe it's the Democratic Party that offers progress for the country. And it's the Republican Party, which controls Washington, D.C. right now, that doesn't. And so I'm running on three main points. One, getting money into your pockets. And it's the Democratic Party and Democratic ideas that are going to get money in your pocket. You know, the Republican Congress has a tax plan in front of you, and the bottom tax rate goes from 10 to 12, and they're saying, we're cutting your taxes? I can talk to my 7-year-olds, and they can tell you which is higher, 10 or 12%. So my plan for getting money in your pockets is cutting taxes for the middle and leaving taxes the same for the millionaires. It's about cutting corporate tax rates if the corporations raise bottom salaries. It's about raising minimum wage to get the people who are just starting out in position. It's about strengthening union rights. It's the Republican Party that's attacking unions across the country. Second, healthcare in your wallets. Now, I'd love to say it's been bipartisan in Washington, D.C. to get more people insured, but that's not the truth. It's been the Republican Party that's been attacking and trying to get health insurance away from people. Our own congressman voted to cut 22 million people's Medicare. I'm sorry, it's really sweet to talk about bipartisanship, but they're the one that's sabotaging government. And third, let's talk about opioids, the opioid crisis here in Staten Island, across the country. In the time of this conference here, a dozen people across America have died of opioid overdoses. And you say, well, what's the solution? Maybe we can have a treatment center here and this and that. And yes, medical treatment helps people. But I think we need to be a bit stronger and bolder about this. Why hasn't the DEA raided the headquarters of McKesson Corporation, which is now the 5th largest company in America because it distributes opioids willy-nilly to small communities? Why haven't they broken down the doors and led the executives out in handcuffs and charged them all? Because I know if you search those corporate emails, you'll find a lot of incriminating evidence. So money in your pockets, health insurance in your wallet, and opioid CEOs in the handcuffs.
These are the things I'm focused on healthcare. When my wife was 30 years old, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. This was real and this was personal. And I guarantee if I talk to anybody else in this room, everybody here is going to have a story about healthcare. Every one of you. This matters. The things we're talking about matters. It took 1.5 years of surgeries and chemotherapy to get my wife better. And she still worries, just like you, Mike. We still deal with the insurance companies, right? We're still dealing with co-pays and deductibles and what's inside and what's out of network. And now she has a pre-existing condition that can come back, and it's fearful to her. And it's fearful to a lot of people here. It's personal.
Talk about the opioid crisis. Don't you think that's a bad message when you start declassifying certain type of drugs? All the work that was done over the last 30 years to get where we were, now go backwards?
What I would say about that is when you talk about certain types of drugs, for example, when I go out on a Friday night and I go to a bar and someone's drinking an apple martini, I don't want to drink it, but I don't think it should be illegal because it's not going to cause them any consequences. We have a lot of examples from around the country that marijuana, which is a drug that I don't use, but some people enjoy, has been legalized and they haven't really suffered the problem. So I think we're all thinking people. Like, certain drugs should be more accessible if people want to use them responsibly. Opioids are a whole new ballgame in terms of the chemical addictiveness. And I think the fact that companies, which have been fined millions of dollars for letting opioids spread across our country, are still in business is really the crime here.
What's the bottom line is, what is the answer to this opioid crisis? Like, what would you do as a legislature?
If on a Thursday morning, for example, the DEA knocked down the doors of one of the big opioid distributors and led their executives out in handcuffs, within 10 minutes that would be on CNBC, and every opioid company's stock would fall by half. Within 5 minutes of that, every opioid company's board of directors would be getting together and telling each other, we can't ship another pill until we're 100% sure it's going to a medical need. And that would put a massive dent in the loose bill of opioid pills across America.
Palestinians like to kill Israelis just because they're Jewish. What's your position on that?
I think what you're referring to is like the BDS movement that's like popular on campuses, and I'm 100% against that, because if there's any country we need to be divesting from, it's Saudi Arabia and the businesses there, which not only have spread petrochemical money, but are also the major sponsors of a lot of the terrorist groups we have. In terms of Israel, like, I'm a very practical guy. When you look at that region, which country has the closest to America rights for people, free speech, democratic government, and values? And it's Israel. This country has been our ally in terms of all the wars in the region. So, like, I'm running for Congress of America, and to me, being close to Israel is part of keeping America strong. Now, does it mean I agree with everything that Israel does? No, but I certainly agree with it 812% more than most of the other countries in the region.